Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, the UK's largest professional union for prison, correctional and secure psychiatric workers with 30,000 members. Recruitment and organising of new young members are key issues for all unions, and supporting them as they begin their journeys as POA representatives is vitally important. The future of the union literally depends on it. In this episode, I am joined by young members Natalie, Declan, Katie and Tyler, plus Deputy General Secretary Joe Simpson. They are all members of the newly created Young Members Consultative Committee, and we recorded this immediately following their first meeting. What motivated them to get active in the POA to start with? What issues are of greatest weight for young members? And, crucially, what does success look like when it comes to the POA's Young Members Strategy? Let's just start off if you could tell me who you are and where you work. That would be great.
Yeah, so my name's Natalie. I work at H&P Gartry, which is in Leicestershire. Been there about 2 years.
And moving along?
My name's Declan. Worked in the job about 5.5 years. Worked at H&P Darren.
I'm Katie. I'm from H&P Exeter. I'm an OSG, so I've worked there for about 3 years now.
And last but not least?
Tyler Sidney from Cookwood, been there about 8 years now.
It's great to see you all, and great to see you as well, Joe, of course. So this is the first meeting that you've just had of the Young Members Consultative Committee. How's it been?
Been interesting, to say the least.
What do you as young members want to get out of the Consultative Committee? How is it going to help you get more out of the union and give you more in terms of your day-to-day jobs?
I think it's just having that voice on the side of the young people and being that knowledge that we have, having that taken into the union, having that insight that's needed for the next generation.
Right. Would others agree with that there is actually a need to hear from young people in order to be able to respond accurately to the needs of young members?
Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of things have been on the agenda for this first meeting?
I think we've covered things sort of like social media and our sort of presence on online forums and stuff, and lack of in some sort of aspects as well, because it's one area that we as young members, it is a vast array of different things you can access, you can see, you can do, but our voice on there is not necessarily existing in some platforms. So I think it's just getting our voice out there and heard by the young members as well as other people.
I suppose there is really a kind of digital divide, isn't there? I mean, with the greatest respect to people like myself and Joe, the way we interact with digital technology is very different from yourselves.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say you're all digital natives, whereas we're interlopers. I guess when you talk about using digital technology to best effect, it's the information the union puts out coming to you in a form that you can most readily access, as well as making sure the views of young members of the POA are out there and are therefore available to inform other young members and influence policymakers. Would that be an accurate summary?
Yeah. It's pretty accurate. I can't really, apart from sort of Twitter, it's the only sort of social media platform that we exist on as a union. So I think young members, it's not Twitter for a lot of people. It's not really a thing.
It's outdated, isn't it? Now there's always going to be a new social media platform that outdates the last one. It's just making sure that we're on the most recent, engaging with the people that are using it.
So we are going to see a POA Young Members TikTok account then, is that right?
Yeah, hopefully.
So we'll be getting straight on there.
Excellent. So let's talk a bit about the remit of the committee and so on. I mean, first of all, what is young in POA terms?
Well, I think the official line, it's 27 below, isn't it? That's the sort of party line. But I think there's talk about it going up to 30. But I think young in service and it is the people that are coming through that we need to look after, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes absolute sense, because the experience of people joining the prison service in 2023 is very different to how they joined in 2003 or 1993 even. And talking to longer serving POA members, as we have done on this podcast on many occasions, they talk about the changes in the nature of the job, not just the way that's working, but the conditions that you encounter in establishments, and the fact that there's a kind of higher churn rate now, that it's not regarded as necessarily a job for life or even a long period of time. And that means that there needs to be a different way to engage with members who are coming through, for sure.
Trying to get that career back into it, making people realise that this is a job that you can have for life and there's a career to be made out of it, giving those young people coming through the opportunity to learn that and to see it, rather than just a job for 5 years.
Whether you like it or not, you are now all in a kind of leadership and mentoring role, aren't they? People will look to you and look at the things you put out on social media and your experiences and think, oh, okay, I can go to them for information, or they're doing stuff that I'd like to do. Does that prospect excite you or frighten you a bit, or how do you feel about that?
I think it definitely excites me, because I just think, we were saying this all of yesterday, I just wish I had someone when I first joined at 18 to do that, to look up to, and to have that insight from 18 at the beginning of my career. So I'm definitely excited to go back, especially to my local branch, and do that for our new starters and our 18-year-old and our up to 27-year-olds. I am looking forward to that, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's one thing for me as well, like being that person. I've never seen myself, I've got that long of service, or I'm now the one that people look up to. It's crazy that you find yourself, or myself anyway, like at that level of saying, oh yeah, staff comes talk to me to get advice, get guidance, etc. When I joined, there were people in service that had been in 20, 30 plus years that you could go to, that were sort of the best people you could speak to, best sound advice. But now it's the case of actually the younger members and the younger member of staff and the lesser served members of staff are them years of experience, the years of knowledge, but we've not got the wing SO of 30 years to go and speak to get advice from. It's the case of, oh, there's someone that's been in 2 years over there, they probably know what they're talking about. We'll go speak to them.
Indeed. And is it the case that all your establishments, you actually get the chance to talk to people in their first few days on the job, or are there barriers put in your way by governors and other layers of management?
So at Cookham, I'm quite lucky, because I'm the new colleague mentor, so I deal with a lot of the new staff, and we have that first engagement with a lot of them. And I say that a lot of it is sort of shock factor as well, about what we do, what their job's going to entail, and I quite enjoy it. But we are quite lucky in terms of engagement with new staff as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, because I do the buddy scheme, which is like underneath to the new starter mentors. So I have that first initial 2 weeks with new staff, and I'm fortunate enough that I have that, and I'm that recognition for them. And it's nice to have that time to talk and have those questions answered, because again, that's not something I had when I joined. But I think I do get the chance to speak to new staff, definitely. Don't know about.
I mean, we do on the wings. So I'm currently on restricted duties. I'm pregnant, but we still get a chance to see the new starters. You see them with their visitor lanyards, and you do approach them and say, oh, how are you getting on? They've not scared you off, that sort of thing. And it is nice, because they approach you because they see you as someone that's been in a while, but realistically you haven't. But I feel like some of the more senior staff are not as approachable as they used to be. I think because we've got such a big turnover of staff, the senior staff are not as friendly or approachable as they used to be, because they're just tired of having people in and out constantly and having to teach them. I think that's a big problem at the minute in prison service. When I joined, I only had one friendly face, and the rest of them didn't have the experience. So it was blind leading the blind, I think.
Right, and that's a very important point, indeed, because what you hear a lot is that actually the reality of the job can be very, very different to how it's portrayed or how it's advertised.
Mm-hmm.
And to have,
I agree. I think we as a prison service, we don't advertise the job as well as we probably should, because people come in with expectations that are not being met, because some of the OSGs come in and think it's a non-prisoner facing role, but that's different in different prisons. It might be the case for Gartree, but might not be a case for another prison. But
setting those expectations at the start, rather than when you're 3 weeks in, 4 months in.
I think for me personally, when I first joined, I didn't realise how the regime physically worked and how much free time the prisoners do get, and how you interact with them, you play pool with them, you have to take them there, you have to take them there. I didn't realise the involvement that you would have. And I joined just after COVID, when things started to loosen up a bit and the rules were getting a bit more, open. So it was a shock to the system, and I don't think people know that when they join. So it can be scary, I think, personally.
I think that's sort of much the same in the YCS estate. We no longer recruit prison officers, we recruit youth justice specialist workers. So we've got people walking into the jail that are fresh out of school, fresh out of college, fresh out of uni that walk in and then are shocked when you say, oh yeah, you're going to be working on this wing, this is where you're going to be working, and they put their hand up. So, no, I'm a youth justice specialist worker. I don't unlock them for exercise. I don't take them out for this and that. And it's like, no, your job fundamentally is a prison officer working with the most challenging under 18-year-olds in the country. And I say a lot of that. It's younger staff that walk in and go, oh, okay, what do I do now? Do I leave, or what's next? Is there another job I can go to? So it's a bit of a broken system in terms of the whole recruitment picture at the minute for our place anyway. We've got young people joining the job that look at it and see that we've got flexible hours, working family friendly hours. We can do career breaks. We can do all this fabulous stuff that we advertise it readily and we make it fully available, and we make them all the promises under the sun. The award-winning SSEL give us you can have that. You can get part-time work and you can reduce your hours. But then when they get into their jails, it's, I've been told I can have part-time hours. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I've been told I can have a work-life balance. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. These are all they need to meet. They need to meet the needs of the establishment. It's the one line we get back a lot of. Yeah, it doesn't quite meet the needs of the establishment. We can't let you have that.
I think we need to shift the focus to not necessarily. Yes, we have to meet the needs of the establishment, but we have to meet the needs of young people because the needs are shifting. It's not a case of, it used to be majority men that had wives at home looking after their kids, but now you're having single mothers join, single fathers join, and they need the time, they need the flexible hours to see their kids and see their family and have a life, really. Because if you think about it, if you're working 7:30 till 6:30, like we do main shifts at our place, realistically, a child goes to sleep at 7 p.m. and it probably wakes up at 6 when you leave. So that then takes away that parent's whole day with that child. And I don't think the prison service is facilitating time for that.
No work-life balance.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
It's the whole element of being a young worker, isn't it? Because I joined the job at 18 and I had no care and responsibilities. I was living at home, readily available, do whatever I want, go out when I want, see who I want to see. But now it's the case of you've got young members joining that are joining at 18, then are starting families. They're then potentially becoming carers for older relatives, siblings, etc. And it's the case of there's nothing there to support these people. And when you then apply for a work-life balance or a reduced hours, you get frowns, you get people saying, oh yeah, but are you sure? Is that the right thing? Well, is there another job you can do instead? Is this the right job for you? Well, actually, here it is. I want to do this job, but I've had a child and now I want to work less, and I need to do shift friendly hours around my partner so I can go pick the child up from school, etc. But it's you join the job and you've got no strings attached. But then as you sort of get older and you start again making your own family and etc., it feels like there's no support for a lot of that sometimes.
Yeah, and it makes no sense, does it? Because on the one hand, the prison service needs young people to be attracted by it and to go into and work. But that if they don't recognise the reality of people starting out on life, adult life as it were, as you've just described, then you're going to increase turnover, aren't you?
Yeah.
So what attracted all of you to POA membership? What's your POA story, as it were? Was it that on your first day someone approached you and said, we're the POA, you should join and this is why? Or did you have to go and search out a rep?
Me personally, I joined the job because I had a close family friend who worked at Cookham, and he straight away enticed me into joining. And it was the case of he just thrust the form in my face until I signed it, filled it out, and sent it off. And then it's one of the things you don't realise. And I think I went away to do my training and then got pulled in by a governor to be, you need to justify your expenses, etc. And then POA rep ended up walking past and was like, what's going on? Is this an actual meeting? And really sort of put the stoppers on the meeting, said, right, we need to get official letter here. If you want to do this properly, we're doing it properly. You can't just pull them in an office. And I say that it was the knowledge was there, and you were very much sort of thrust upon, yeah, join this, join that. You know you're going to want it at some point, etc. And the education as well. Well, for me anyway. Yeah, much the same for you guys. But
I think for me, being an OSG, we're quite, because obviously we can strike, obviously prison officers can't. So my local branch are very good with telling us what we can do and what we can do to help not just our colleagues but friends, because obviously naturally you build lifelong friends. And I think when I joined, I didn't know about that as the POA. I could be a POA member until all this talk was happening about strikes, and I actually looked into it. And I thought, actually, as an OSG, I can do so much for my colleagues, my friends. And I just asked a local branch member, and he was absolutely brilliant. He had all the time of the day for me, sat me down, talked me through everything. But it wasn't until I asked that question that I was opened up, and then I went back to our group and just started informing people. And actually over the years now when people start, it's probably the first thing I say to them. Become a bit of a joke with me, because it's their first day through the door and I get up instantly, out Zari comes out and I'm giving them 110 information, and they're just like, oh, I'm only here for my shadow week. But I think it was because no one had said, you're an OSG, would you like to join? That I think that's why I do it. Do it now. But it's just asking the right questions to the right people.
I think it's gaining knowledge of what it is as well. Because I think when I started, you see a lot of people pull out their POA diary to write their shifts down, and it's, oh, is it just a diary? Is that what you get? And you hear that quite a lot, don't you? But it's the education of, no, this is what the union is. This is what a union does. And I think for me personally, when I joined the job at 18, I knew of. I said when I knew of the POA. Yeah, I know I've got a diary. I didn't understand the whole trade union movement as such, and what that entailed, and what that meant for me, what that meant for the other staff, etc. That it was a collective of people that were bargaining for better deals and better pay potentially and stuff like that. So I think it was an education as much of what the union does as well as what I can do for the union as well. Yeah. And I think that's sort of what enticed me into joining the branch as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting the feeling from what you're all saying that actually part of the reason why you're involved in the way you are at the moment is because you wish you had someone like you when you started.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah. In terms of what success looks like for young members in the POA, if we roll forward a year and you're looking back and you're thinking, yeah, that was a good year, we did a lot. What are the sort of things that you would have hoped would have changed for the better?
I think from my own point of view, it's a more voice for the young people and better access. Because I think it's one thing that it's secret, isn't it? Behind the four walls of a jail, you don't talk about what goes on, and we can't talk about what happens. But it's more communication in terms of pictures of social media, who the outlook is, what they can see, and how our voice is getting out there. What can we do to have our own voice and our own opinion voiced on that NEC? And I say, I'm not, without giving someone a seat and saying, yeah, come on, you can do this, you can represent this, you can represent us. We don't want that. We want a voice that belongs there, that we feel like is coming through. And although we've got all these different networks, Black Workers networks, and PIT, Dawn, Rise, etc. It's that there's two that cover everything, and that's Young Workers, and then your NEC. Do you know what I mean? It covers all parts, and it's not the case of saying that we just need to be given a seat just because. It's no, actually, there's a voice here, and we want it to be heard.
It's a need, I think.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's identifying the need and then looking at what can we do to meet that need, because give it a few years, all your usual senior officers are going to retire and you're going to be left with nothing. I think it's meeting that need to make people stick.
Yeah, it's who's next, isn't it? It's the next generation. And as much as we appreciate the work that the NEC and others do, it's what can we do to better educate the people that are coming through?
Because education, isn't it? We need to educate the next generation.
Yeah,
ultimately we're going to be the ones sitting in them seats in a few years' time and years to come. And what do I need to know now? What can I start learning now that will better enable me to do that job in the future?
Yeah, it's about future-proofing the union as well as making sure there's proper representation of the issues that affect you today.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great pleasure to talk to all of you, and I wish you all well in your POA careers and, of course, in your prison service careers as well. Can I just ask each of you if you had one message to give to someone who's just about to start their prison service career, apart from join the union, what would it be? The one best piece of advice, perhaps the best piece of advice you wish you were given when you started or were given?
Well, for me personally, it's something that someone did say to me. It was a POA rep that said to me, give it time, give it at least 6 months, it gets better. Because I think the first 6 months are very tough. You're adjusting to a whole new environment, whole new load of people, and you do think of quitting, you do think of giving up because it is hard. But I think give it time. Let yourself sort of adapt, I think is the advice I was given, and I'm very grateful for, otherwise I wouldn't be here anymore, personally.
I would say just learn a new trade. Like, just stick it out for the first year or so. But before people start, I would definitely say look into the job further, as we touched on before, about when people are being recruited and what they're being told. It's totally different when you get into the establishment, like going part-time and stuff like that. People need to look into it further before they actually do join the job. Because we're getting a lot of people join the job who are fresh out of college and they don't really have much life skills, and they're coming into an environment where you're dealing with murderers, rapists, dealing with some people who have done the worst crimes, and it's a tough environment to be in. But if they are joining, they need to just stick it out for the first year or two, and then you learn your jail craft. That's
Yeah.
You need to learn jail craft. It takes time, and it will be hard. It's hard for most people who join the job. The turnover rate of staff at the minute is very high, so a lot of people are leaving within the first 6 months. Definitely in the establishment I'm working.
Yeah.
Back from college, half of them.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of people are leaving within the first few months. They just need to stick it out.
Mm.
It's very challenging at the minute.
Yeah, yes. I couldn't agree with you more. I was always told, ask for help. Don't sit there in silence. That whole no question's a silly question, but I'm still going to laugh at your question anyway. Being told that you could come into a room and you can sit down, you can ask me anything, and knowing that I'll get an answer. Never let it sit on your mind, because your work is your work and your life is your life. You need to have that separation. Your life comes first, and you have to have that balance. So asking for help, and I say this to people, I'm always here, just ask me a question. I'd rather you ask me and I not know the answer than you sit there and think about it for weeks on end.
Yeah. I think one thing I say to a lot of the new staff is get involved, because you're going to be working here now for hopefully the next 48 years. You're going to spend Christmases, birthdays, New Year's with this staffing group, on these landings and doing this job. This is where you're going to make your bread and butter. It's where you're going to shape yourself. It's where you're going to do a lot of growing up very quickly, because you're going to learn it and you're going to see things that aren't the nicest things to see. You're going to do things that, again, aren't the nicest things to do. So get involved. There's a wealth of knowledge out there, and I was lucky in my first part of my career that I had people I could lean on, and I've got great people around me now, from colleagues and other reps and stuff. But you've got to put yourself out there a little bit to get that recognition sometimes as well, right? And it's leaning on the people that aren't necessarily you're going to be your biggest fans when you first start, but you know what? In a couple of years' time, you'll be so close because you've been in restraints together, you've dealt with instances of self-harm together, and you've spent hours upon hours sat in offices on patrol doing exercise together, and you build these networks. And you have to expose yourself a little bit to the other staff, because they're going to be your support network. And you leave the job and you go home, you talk to your friends and your family, and they don't understand it. They don't know what association is, what is exercise, what's a self-harm incident. Whereas you can open up to your colleague and it's talking to someone like-minded that's got the same experiences that we've had and we're learning from, that can impart a bit of wisdom as well. And that's not necessarily someone that's got years in. That could be someone that you just happen to join with, or potentially joined after you. And the support network, you've got to build it yourself as much as it is there and readily available. We're a very close bunch of prison staff. We don't like to let our guard down too much and show our emotions and stuff. But I think we all touched on it, is talk to each other. Don't be afraid to have a chat. Let your guard down a little bit when you're in an office talking to someone. Say if you're struggling. But we play this hero culture, being the prison service, of, oh, I can't say too much, I can't cry, I can't expose myself. And actually, it's a case of, if you talk and get the support where you need it, you're controlling where your vent is, if that makes any sense.
And you'll be better off for it.
Yeah. Being in touch with your emotions is definitely something that I would always say to staff.
Joe, could I just ask you, Joe, if people want to find out more about the Consultative Committee, perhaps want to get involved in the Consultative Committee, what should they do?
All I've got to do is email Carol Strawn at POA headquarters, carol@poauk.org.uk. Also, what we'll be doing is we're putting our colleagues' details out to the field, tell them that we're part of the Young Members Committee. If they've got any questions, etc., contact them and start and build that network up right across the prison estate. So this is just a start, and something that I did say to my colleagues here. In 10 years' time, when the Young Members Network is thriving and it's grown well, they can look and say, I started that, and be proud of it.
My thanks to Natalie, Declan, Katie and Tyler, plus Deputy General Secretary Joe Simpson. As Joe said, if you want to find out more or to get involved in the Young Members Consultative Committee, you can contact Carol at poauk.org.uk. Details of all the work the union does on behalf of its members of all ages can be found at poa.org.uk, where you can also sign up to join the POA. You can also keep up with the POA on a number of social media platforms, including X, the new name for Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you for listening. We hope you like what you have heard and will join us for the next episode of the POA podcast. Until then, thank you and goodbye.